Hello and welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Edward Dunne, and today with me I have Officer Jamie Donahue. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Uh, Officer Donahue, the subject we're going to be speaking about today is school safety. And Officer Donahue is our school resource officer. So, today in the news, just about every day, there is some sort of incident going on in different schools. So we're fortunate to be able to have you in two of our schools. Maybe we could just share with the community a little bit. Let's start with some of the training that you've had to be an SRO, because SROs are a little bit different than our average police officer, even though first and foremost you are a police officer.
That's right. As you know, it's a selective process. You have to have an interest in working with kids. You have to have an interest in being in the school. And I know that you have to be the right personality to be working in a school and to be working with our youth. After I was selected for the position, I went to the NASRO school, which is National Association of School Resource Officers, for a week-long training course where we cover things like areas of juvenile law. We cover things like how to teach informally with youth, how people best learn. We did a lot of scenario-based things with, learning how just to talk to a teenager.
Which is different than talking to an adult. I mean, those of us that have children or kids and everything else, talking to your kids are a little bit different than talking to an adult.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. That's great. And then you have ongoing training, of course, also.
That's right. I just came back from the New England School Safety Conference that was held in Norwood. They always have phenomenal keynote speakers. This year it was Rudy Perez, who's the LA school resource officer. They have a police force basically within their schools.
Sure.
One year it was the principal of Columbine. So we're fortunate enough to have those speakers, and then they do breakout sessions where you can sign up for classes such as marijuana, vaping, de-escalation of students, whatever interests you and whatever is pertinent to what's going on in your schools.
Right. Yeah. And again, I want to let the public know. First and foremost, you're a police officer in the school. You're not a teacher.
That's right.
Although you do attend some classes, or maybe to clarify some laws or things like that.
Yeah, I've been asked to speak in the public justice class at the high school, which is always fun. I participate with Career Day at Lawrence School, so I am, interacting and in the classroom and at school events.
Could you maybe share with the community, like, a day as a SRO in the school, what your day might look like in the school?
Sure. So it's much like policing on the patrol level, is that it's different every day. Typically, I'll come in the morning, I'll get all of my reports and paperwork that I need to work on for the day. I'll look over the police log and find out if any of students had been involved in anything over the night. Because part of my role as a school resource officer is information sharing with the school and being a liaison between the police department and between the schools. Then I go, typically I start out my day at the high school. I check in with the administration there. We talk about anything that has come up, social media stuff, anything that might require my attention. From there, I might walk the halls, do a few checks, speak with staff, and then from there I usually check in at Lawrence. Okay. And it's much of the same. From different days, sometimes I have parent meetings where I sit down with the school. Maybe somebody had been, or what we call a reentry meeting. Someone who had been suspended is now coming back in, and I'll sit down with the parents and I'll sit down with the school and just be a part of those meetings.
Okay.
We have Monday morning meetings where we sit down and we talk about things that may have happened over the weekend, ongoing events with students. How can we best help them, and what can we bring to the table to do that?
Yeah, no, it's like you talked about. We're bridging the gap with the school, the police, and the school department, which is great. And you're also there for, the safety of the schools. And to let the community know, Falmouth has 7 schools. And Jamie's so-called police beat is the high school and the Lawrence School. So it's the 2 schools that you're primarily responsible for. The other schools in the community, what we've done, because we really feel police presence is really important, especially with everything that's in the news, is we've created community liaisons for all the different schools. So officers who have been selected to participate in school events at those schools and check in with the staff meetings and things like that, or if the staff or the students have any issues like that, they can address it. So they actually have a face to deal with. It isn't they just calling the police department and just getting a random officer. They actually have an officer that they're familiar with and familiar with the school. So that's really worked out well. One of the big things is that we've created many years ago, back in the early 2000s, was lockdown drills. And we do those, a couple times a year?
Usually once in the spring, once in the fall.
Yeah, kind of like what the fire drills used to be for safety. And that has pretty much become the norm. Can you talk, without disclosing anything other than what is disclosed with the students, and things, can we talk a little bit about lockdown drills, how they kind of work?
Sure. One of the advantages to a lockdown drill is that we try to make it as real as possible, which, that means that the administration and the students don't know when it's going to happen, and it's without notice. And the purpose of that is it's not a surprise. It's not supposed to be meant as a surprise. It's supposed to be as realistic as possible, because we can't plan for emergencies. They just happen. Right. And by having the drill in place, it's less thinking. You know what to do. You've done it before. So we show up unannounced, put the school in lockdown, watch how long that takes. Every once in a while there's a curveball. It might be lunch. There might be students outside. And I think, in the past there's even been a fire alarm pulled during a lockdown situation. And we've seen that recently with current events, that something like that can actually happen. And so people know in advance what to do and how to respond. And once the school's in lockdown, it's a great opportunity for officers to really learn the school, because now we have to go door to door and, let the students and the staff within the buildings and classrooms know it's just a drill. You're doing great. When you hear the announcement, you'll be released from lockdown. But we physically get to go into each classroom, let the kids know how well they're doing, let them know, this is just a drill, and get really familiar with the building.
Yeah, and that's really important. And we've taken that another whole level too. Again, as you're responsible for 2 schools. The other schools in town, what we do is our officers visit those schools on a daily basis to just go in, greet the staff, greet the students, just to say hello. But at the same time, they're getting familiar with the school. Kind of what we've done with the lockdown drills. We always try to take different officers with us so that we can introduce them to the schools, because they may not have been in the Falmouth school system, and the schools have changed over time, which is really important. Beyond that, the lockdown drills could function because of an incident in the schools, but we've also do what we call as a modified lockdown drill because of an incident that has occurred outside the schools that we don't want to get into the schools, which we've done several times in the town of Falmouth, where we had an incident over on Homestead Lane many years ago that we put the T-Ticket school in a modified lockdown. And you could talk maybe about a modified lockdown. It's more of the doors are locked, they don't let anybody in the school, but the students continue to, with their day inside as far as learning and going to lunch and things like that.
Exactly. It's less of an intrusion into the school, while also keeping them safe from the exterior threat. So basically nobody in, nobody out of the school building, but they can pass and go to class as they would any other day.
Right.
And as soon as the threat outside of the building has been eliminated, they can allow visitors and
back to the normal
exactly.
Day. And we've been fortunate. We've been doing it many years, and like you were saying, we've gone from letting them know that Tuesday is going to be a lockdown drill to just now walking in and telling them they're in lockdown. And the staff and the students, and I know I've witnessed them several times, and the students really have embraced all this, as well as the staff, and take it serious and do a good job. So it's that partnership that we've had with the school to keep everybody safe, which is important. We've even taken it to the next level. We know how to lock down. We know how to secure the school. We've now taken it to a couple years ago back to what's called a reunification drill. Can we speak about that a little bit? What is a reunification drill?
Sure. So in the incident of a major incident at a school, be it a gas leak, a boiler exploding, or a critical incident involving a threat, after you deal with that immediate incident in the school, we need to find a way to reunite parents and children. And so how we've been able to do that is by practicing drills with transporting the kids from their school to a secondary building, at which point the parents can come and retrieve their kids. And we do that by working with the Director of Transportation, Greg Kennedy, with the school buses, working with the school staff who has all of the student records and knows who's allowed to pick up the kids, and keeping the kids and the parents separate. So when the parent comes in to, for example, the gymnasium, they go to the line, A through D, whatever their last name is, and they say, I'm here to pick up so-and-so. The administrator then would look at the records and say, okay, your mother, you're okay to pick up this child. A runner would go get the child, usually from the auditorium or wherever in the building they're being kept, and would be reunited with a parent who would then leave with the child. But it's really about looking forward and what happens after we're dealing with this first incident.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been doing that a couple of years, and it's worked out well from what I understand. And I want the public to know it doesn't have to just be a real critical incident. It could just be a school event, like you say, a pipe burst or a boiler's not working or something like that. But and last night we held a safety forum at the high school, which some of those topics were talked about too. And one of the big things that I heard from the superintendent is to make sure that your records, your contact lists are really up to date with the schools.
Absolutely, yeah. They call it Power School, but who's allowed to pick up your child should always be updated, your current phone number, your current address, and that's important.
That's really important. So you want to be able to get the child back to the right parent.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. Some other things that we've done with the school, particularly the high school and the Lawrence School, is we've actually had canines come in during the lockdowns. Can you talk about that a little bit, why we do that?
Sure. It's important to keep our schools drug-free, and one of the tools we're able to use is the canines, and they come in and they do a non-intrusive search of the school. And I say school and not students because that's exactly what they do. They're able to search cars parked in the student and administrative lots. They are able to search lockers, and they're able to search backpacks in classrooms. And how that looks is we actually take kids out of the classroom, line them up against the hallway so there's no canine to student contact, and then the dog will come in and just check the area of the classroom. As soon as the dog's done with that, the kids go back in.
Okay. And that's why we do it during the lockdown drills, so that the canines aren't searching staff or students.
Right.
It's just searching property.
Exactly.
And these dogs aren't aggressive. These are
Many of them.
passive.
Yeah, labs, a lot of them.
A lot of them are labs, and they're passive, but they're trained to detect narcotics and things like that. And we've done that, and we try to do that at least once a year. And I'm happy to say, and I think you were there. We just recently had done it at the high school, and nothing was detected, from what I understand.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's great for says a lot about the students in the town. Says a lot about the staff at the high school and all the great work that's being done to educate students against drugs. So that's really important. Some of the other programs, and again, people might not think it's to keep the students safe, is the more interaction with the police department that students have, I think that does keep students safe. They don't have anxieties when they see a police officer and things like that. So some of the other programs that we've done in the Falmouth school system is High Five Fridays.
Yes.
Which is always a treat.
Yes.
I think for
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Staff, students and everything else. And we just did one recently on National High Five Friday.
Yes.
It's well received, and it gives the officers time to meet the kids and the kids to meet the officers, so that's great. Another program that we do twice a year, again, I think is another way for the police to bond with students. This thing, it's called Shop with a Cop.
Yep.
And we do that twice a year. We do it, back to school?
Back to school edition and then the holiday edition.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Shop with a Cop is the Cape and the Islands, all local police departments get together and we plan a day for the kids, which typically would look like we meet usually at the Yarmouth Police Department. Everybody gets together, everybody gets familiar, and then we do a motorcade, which is really fun for the kids, in the cruisers, and we drive them to lunch. After lunch, which is fully, taken care of, then we go shopping with the kids, and they get, a specified amount of money, usually donated from the unions, to shop with, and it's in the form of a gift card. And so the back to school edition would look like, they can get school clothes, they can get what they need for school. And then the Christmas edition, sometimes they're buying gifts for their families, sometimes they're buying things that they might not get. And it's really just for deserving kids in the community. The selection process, we usually ask for kids, and we ask Superintendent Nancy Taylor, and she reaches out to her principals because they work with the kids every day.
Sure.
They know the kid that maybe doesn't have a winter coat, or they know the kid that, has worked really hard this year and has had great behavior, and, so they actually select the kids, and then, we get to take them out and, have a really fun day and a positive interaction.
I think the officers have as much fun as the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other important piece that should be said about this is that, at least in the Falmouth Police Department, the Patrolmen's Union and the Sergeants and Lieutenants Union are the ones who donate that money for
Right.
those gift cards for these kids. And, I applaud the men and women of the police department for doing that.
Yeah, we have a lot of generous folks.
A lot of generous folks. And if we can make a child's day, it's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
But again, that interaction, that day with the police, just helps that bond with the police and the students, and that helps you in your job.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would imagine, because particularly the high school and the Lawrence School, the relationship that you have with students, I would think it would make it easier for them to come to you with information.
Yeah, it's a lot of relationship building and being available. So I want a student who's had something traumatic happen to them feel comfortable to come to me and disclose that to me. And if they need help with something, I want them to feel comfortable to approach me and to ask for that help. And I've had it happen. I've had from, the minor range of, I just got this speeding ticket, what do I do? To I just had a crash right before school, what do I do? And also is to the extreme level of, I was sexually assaulted at a party over the weekend. So it runs the gamut based on students' needs, but I want them to be able to come to me and to have that conversation and to use me as a resource and to guide them through that. And I can do that, directly with students and also with the faculty. If they disclose to a faculty member, they'll come over and they'll say, okay, this is what I got, what do we do? And, it's a valuable relationship to have.
Yeah. And if you weren't in the school, we wouldn't have that, and some of that might go unreported. So that's important. That's one of the things that we do say, and in fact we said it last night at the school forum, was, and we tell the parents that too, and it's directly to that if you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
That seems to be the national saying now, and that's for students, staff, and particularly parents. If your student comes home and tells you something, you can't brush it off today.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if you do see something or hear something, you need to say something. So that's one of the messages that we want to get out to the community also. On another note, as far as school safety, that we also did was we took it to another level, because we can't put police officers in all the schools. Back in 2008, 2009, we used to have 2 school resource officers. We had one that was at the high school and one that was at the Lawrence School. But due to budget restraints and manpower, we had to reduce it to 1. So now you have to, split your time between the 2 schools. We are looking to, try to refund those positions with the town so that we can get back to 2 of them again, because it is important, and you're busy.
Oh, yeah.
Both those schools are busy. But what we did in the police department was, so that there was some be police presence at the schools, is created with the assistance of Nancy Taylor. We created substations at the North Falmouth School and the East Falmouth School. And what that is for our officers when they do police reports. They might be out in the Wacoit area or be in the North Falmouth area, and if they have to type a report, they have to come all the way back to the police department. So we partnered with the schools to put computers in the schools, and our officers now go there and do their police reports there, which is another way of keeping the schools safe, because if anybody was thinking about doing something at a school, you don't know when the police officer is going to be there or not. So that was another way that we've partnered with the school to have police presence in the school, which we tried to do. We also have our officers in the mornings, particularly the high school and the other schools, just be present as the buses are pulling in. And we'll continue to do that, and we do that with the other schools. It's really important that we don't turn our schools into, I think it was said last night, prisons.
Absolutely, yeah.
There has to be a balance. We want the safety by having police officers present in the school from time to time, SROs present in the middle school and the high school, and there is that balance, and I believe we have that balance, because I don't believe our schools feel like prisons.
Right.
The school has security systems in place as far as door buzzes and cameras to monitor who's coming and going. Staff wear IDs, and I think that they're looking at different IDs for visitors now too.
They're very safety conscious, and I feel like this. It doesn't feel restrictive with the police being in the school. In fact, it's come to a point where when officers are doing their school checks, they're not there to be disruptive. They walk down the hall, they check the building, but kids are excited. They wave, they give them a thumbs up, and they carry on with their day.
Yeah. And again, that's important. That's building that relationship, which we didn't have before. But I know, because I've done the High Five Fridays. It's the same thing. I mean, you could just see the kids beaming on the bus, waiting to come down and give us a high five. So I think it's all important. So I really wanted the community today to hear that that our schools are safe, and we're doing everything possible to keep the staff and the students safe, so that it's really an educational environment for them, so that they can go to school and learn and not worry. And I believe that we are there, and we will continue to do that. And I really appreciate, again, as we said, the selection process for an SRO is that we ask people. We just don't put people in the schools, because, as you said, you're a parent. And you really want to interact with kids and help them, and it's really important, and it says a lot about you, who you are, and I, as the police chief, I appreciate you stepping up and doing that.
Thank you.
But for the most part, I don't know if anything you want to let the community know about. Anything else?
It's just a community effort. If, like you said, if you see something, say something. If we know about something before it happens, we can intervene rather than respond. So it's really a community effort. Absolutely. It is a partnership, and it's on all levels. So again, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And I think we gave the community a lot of great information. As Jamie said it, she said it the best. Pretty much, if you see something, say something. And we will continue to do our job to keep the school system safe, and I can't thank the Nancy Taylor and her staff for the partnership that we have with the schools. We can't do it alone, they can't do it alone, and it's taken us a little bit to get where we are, and I'm really proud of what we have in place. And as a community, you should rest assured that your students and the staff are safe in the Falmouth school system. So again, I want to thank you for joining us today, and again, if you see something, say something. Thank you.